everybody, got my glam on today, got my hot rollers in. I really love using my hot rollers, but sometimes it just takes a little extra effort and planning to get it done. But this video, I hope you guys enjoy it. A lot of you requested that I bring back the top 5, bottom 5 when I was asking for some video requests recently. And that's something that I've often done within certain brands. And I've done quite a few of them, so I'll link to my playlist of them below. But I think another way it might be fun to integrate this idea is just talking about new releases and sharing a quick top 5, bottom 5. I think it's a good way to get a lot of info in one place here. So a lot of these things, most of these things, are products I haven't really discussed yet, so it'll be a pretty big dose of information here. But it really is going to stick to the extremes. I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that I think are the best, most exciting, most important releases, and 5 things that have come out recently that I'm just really not on board with. There may be some things that don't get discussed in this video that just kind of fell somewhere in the middle and were a little more average, but this is top 5, bottom 5, so that's what we're sticking to in this video. And the first thing I'm going to mention, it's technically 2 products, but I'm going to cover them as one, and they are some new skincare things from ColourPop, or the Fourth Ray line. It's called the Daily Facial Moisturizer and Eye Cream, and as soon as I used these, I thought, oh my gosh, what a fantastic texture. It's like sneaky moisture is the way I would describe this, because when you touch, for example, this overall face cream, you don't think it's like that insanely thick. You don't expect that it's going to be too much on your skin, and I'm not saying it is too much, but once you get it all blended in, you're like, oh wow, that moisture is really hanging around. It's sort of a weight where you would touch it and think, okay, I expect that's going to absorb pretty quickly into my skin, and to an extent it does, but you still are left with a really nice kind of pillowy softness to the skin. I really enjoy it. And the key ingredients in this stuff are squalane, that's in both the eye cream and the face cream. Also lychee and vitamin E and shea butter is in the eye cream too. So the eye cream is another thing where I feel like I'm even more hard up for an affordable recommendation to give people. For a long time it was the CeraVe one for me. I thought that was kind of the best low-cost eye cream, but ultimately here lately I find myself wanting more like rich hydration, so I've gone to like the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Eye Rescue. But this is so nice. I really love it underneath makeup. I love both of these under makeup. I don't think the moisture with these is going to be as intense as, say, the Bobbi Brown vitamin enriched face base, but not everybody may be looking to go to that level. And I think this would really suit a lot of people. Again, it feels to me like a really nice kind of plumped up softness to the skin once I get these on. I guess it's got to come back to the ingredients here, but it's providing a little more moisture than you really think it's going to when you first get your fingers on it. But you could also do the blizzard test with this, and I mean, nothing's fallen out. It may be thicker than a lot of things you've tried, but I really enjoy both of these, and they are definitely going to make it into my daily rotation for sure. Here's another new thing I am absolutely loving. This is from Visiart, and this is called the Paris Edit. I give major props to Visiart for making their brand, I think, a lot more consumer friendly over time. Do you remember when all they had were pretty much these $80 palettes that people would come out raving about, but it was just a real consideration before you might actually take the plunge to buy one? And I feel like what they've done with their Petite Pro palettes, with their smaller Theory palettes, with these edit type palettes, they're giving us all their great quality, but just in a smaller quantity of product. You know, they're maybe downsizing the shadows a little bit, which is totally fine with me, because as long as they're giving us, you know, the great pigmentation, the wonderful smoothness, the really interesting and often unique colors sprinkled into their different palettes, as long as they're staying true to their quality mission there, I'm cool with that. I like that they've done what they've needed to do size-wise to make things really nice and affordable and turn out a palette that's coming in just under $40. So I think the price is definitely right here, but I love the color scheme. I love what's happening here. Now, they had a Paris palette out, one of their $80 palettes, that was really 100% shimmer. Everything was kind of a light to medium tone in it, and it was a workable palette. It was a pretty palette, but this one is really well-rounded here. So we've got some really great mattes like this peach, this beautiful shade right here that is like the epitome of dusty cool rose, kind of a light warm brown, this soft just hint of blush shade right here. And I love that there's a variety of warm meets cool. If you were ever a fan of, I always reference this palette whenever I see peach and plum together, but the Happy Place by Bare Minerals, which is no longer around, I love when I spot those kinds of pairings in other palettes. So here we definitely have some kind of of muted plumminess with some peach. We've also got this great, cool kind of charcoal, maybe hint of blue in it color. This rose gold down here, if you love rose gold, this is just dazzling. Absolutely beautiful. Love this plummy shade down here. It's kind of unique. It's sort of like a hint of plum, hint of burgundy, just maybe a little rust in there. This dark shade for some contrast is just dynamite. So I just really love everything that this palette has to offer. I see it as being a really pretty palette for all seasons, actually, and I like how it has that sort of warm meets cool versatility. So I am wearing this today, and I'll take you through the demo once I explain my other really exciting and favorite release that's come out very recently, and that is the Profusion eye brushes. So these are what I use to apply this palette. I've been playing around with these a lot lately, and I think these are phenomenal. These were sent to me in a PR package, and it says blushing and brushing. I'm not sure why they said blushing since nothing is a blush brush, but it's a variety of eye brushes, and I mean, this is a brand that is known for putting out really affordable, really great quality eyeshadow palettes, so I love that they've churned out something now that people can use to apply them. And there are several brushes here that I really, really love. One is so similar to my Sigma E25. It's got a little bit of a pinched in ferrule here. It's darn near the very same shape. It's just maybe got a little more movement to it as you blend on the eye, but very soft. Just the perfect thing to wedge some shadow there in the crease. They also have a fluffier blending brush that's a little more domed. I think they call that the pointed crease eyeshadow brush, but I would probably tend to use that just to blend out my edges. This is so hard to find from different brands, these small eyeshadow brushes for the outer corner. And Morphe had one that's wasn't really totally my ideal, but this is completely it. Who knows this phrase? Essence of Beauty Fine Crease Brush. If you know that, you have been with my channel since the earliest days, because that was a brand at CVS. They put out a little 2-pack of little fine crease brushes, and they were just perfect. If you wanted ultimate control for getting out here, doing an outer V, placing that shadow exactly where you wanted it, and now I feel like finally that brush is back. That brush has been recreated in this ES6 small pointed eyeshadow brush. Love this. This is a necessity, especially for folks with small eyes who really have trouble getting the shadow in exactly where you want it. If you practically want to draw in that outer V for yourself, this is the brush to do that with. It can also be a nice little under eye sort of smudger and applier, but there's just enough movement in here where you can really work in some circular motions and get the product applied so well. So love that. Those would be my top 3. Close behind though, there's this brush called the ES4, the small firm eyeshadow brush. Again, with the small size, but it's a little more dense, a little bit thicker, and I would say it's just like a little bit sized up pencil brush. This would function overall as a pencil brush for me. We've also got a flat, precise eyeshadow brush, and this I would say would be kind of like an eyeliner brush practically. I have used that with cream and gel liner. We have an angled eyebrow brush. It's really fine, so if you feel like a lot of angled brushes are a little too thick for you, this might be a good option, plus the spoolie. And then last but not least, we have, or last but actually kind of my least favorite, is the flat shader eyeshadow. This is the ES5, and this is where they just almost fully had me 100%, because there's got to be a flat brush in the mix, right? Well, this one is flat, but it's just a little too small. I would love it if they could put one out that was just a little bit wider. Profusion, if you're listening, could you make one that's about like this, and then you would have us all completely covered. This is my Sigma E60. Just a little bit wider. I mean, if you've got really small eyes, this might suffice, but I feel like if you look at this on my lid, as I pat shadow on my lid with this, it can get just a little bit tedious, and I feel like I could do the job faster with something slightly larger. But other than that, I mean, this line is really exciting, these brushes. Super soft. Again, I've noticed zero shedding. Just some really nice sizes of brushes that we do not see enough of on the market. And I also really like that they're fluffier brushes, like the E25 equivalent that I was talking about, and sort of like maybe an E40-ish equivalent. These are not oversized either, but they're plenty fluffy enough to get your blending done. So now we're gonna back it up and we're gonna further explain the visiart as the application coincides with these brushes. So what I first did was I took that, it's gonna be hard to not call this the E25, it's the ES2, the Firm Blending eyeshadow brush. I went into this dusty rose color, really pretty brownish rose, and I got that going in my crease. Blends out super easily, but it is very, very pigmented and it does not take a lot of product. So I got that going in there. All over my lid, I did use my Sigma E60 brush, and I used this rich shimmery, we'll call it shimmery plum in a nutshell, and I patted that all over the lid up into the crease. So overall this gave me a little bit deeper lid than I have usually gone with this palette, but I still really love it. I ended up going above the crease with this peachy color, which I thought gives a really nice kind of, I don't know, almost springy vibe to the look. Got that all blended out, and then as my highlight right up under the brow, I used the light shimmery, kind of golden candlelight type color. Really, really pretty sheen to that one. And then I decided to come in from the inner corner with that beautiful candlelight color. It gives this unexpected goldeny pop, just hint of gold, overlapping the plum, so pretty. And then just to give myself soft definition on the lower lash line, I used that brush that I said would function like a pencil brush for me, the Small Firm Eyeshadow ES4, went into my dusty rose, got that going there, and then deepened it up just slightly with that burgundy. It's not a full-on matte burgundy, guys. It's got a little shimmer, but in application, it's not super apparent. So I got that going on the outer corner, and I feel like I have a nice sort of softly defined eye, but at the same time a little bit of drama and some fun tones working in there that I really love. So a great palette, great brushes, that's the whole story on the eyes. Product number 4 in my top 5, and as you can see, these aren't really being given in order of preference so much as just order of application on the face, but there's a new lipstick release from Revlon. They are remaking basically their matte super lustrous lipsticks. They have had some mattes available there for some time, but now they're kind of just giving it a total reboot, and it's a new formula. It feels softer on the lips. It goes on very velvety. I would say exfoliate your lips first, just because I think you'll have the best look pretty much regardless. With any matte formula you might apply, your lips are gonna look better if you've sloughed off the dry stuff. But I'm so excited about this line because they are actually preserving some really classic iconic shades like Fire and Ice, Black Cherry, to name a couple of my favorites. They're keeping those alive in this new line, and I feel like we see so much discontinuation of products. We see so many old favorites going by the wayside, and here I think it's really exciting that they're keeping some, and then it looks like they're introducing other new shades too. But the packaging is really sleek, kind of high-end looking, I would say. I wouldn't have minded a little more indication of the color on the outside. You do have the sticker on the bottom that's going to indicate color, but it's going to be a little tricky to get a great sense of that. But you twist up the tube and it's going to be a standard lipstick bullet. These are full-on matte, just 100% full color. They go on just with zhunk, total opacity across the lips. I'll share my 3 favorite shades with you. One of them, this is a new color to me. It's called Untold Stories, and it's a really pretty kind of toasty nude. I love the depth in this nude. I see some peach, I see a little warmth, but it's just deep enough for me to feel really comfortable wearing that shade. Also, Fire and Ice. Does it get more glam than this? I get such an old school glamour vibe from this shade. It's almost like a little bit of a watermelony brightness, but a whole lot of red in there as well. I think it is so, so wonderfully glamorous, and it's great to have a shade that bold and that vivid in a matte that you can trust a little bit more to stay in place. And same with Black Cherry too. That was a shade that has been out for ages in a cream, and now they've got it in this matte version, and it looks so dark in the tube, but I've always described this as a shade that can look a number of different ways depending on the way you want to apply it. If you want to apply it really light, it can look like a soft berry, actually. If you want to lay it on a little bit more, it can look very rich and vampy, so you're really getting a lot for your money if you get Black Cherry. But I was excited to see that in a matte. I think it's nice to see that Revlon is sort of revamping this aspect of their line and still keeping some iconic shades. This is the full lineup, by the way. I got got this in the PR mailing, so you can see what we're working with. A lot of variety here, from bright to nudes to some really unique shades like a blue. They've also made cherries in the snow in this version, another iconic shade. So definitely something to look into. And then oddly enough, guys, I have another drugstore matte lipstick in my top 5. This is different from the Revlon, but I thought it was really worth mentioning because it is very long wearing. It's definitely a workhorse type product. At the onset, when I first put this on, I thought I would absolutely hate it because of the way it feels going on your lips right at the start. It's from CoverGirl. They've got a 24-hour matte lipstick, and packaging wise, they're kind of like a sort of a rubbery, faux rubbery type tube. You take off the cap and you can see that there's a tube that goes all the way up the lipstick bullet. That's important because this feels really soft going on the lips. Like, you first put this on and it feels actually greasy. You're like, how is this going to work as a matte lipstick? But I can tell you, it actually does set. It lasts really, really evenly and for a very long time. I mean, I've been drinking water like a beast lately, and if my lipstick's gonna wear off on my little silicone straw that I've got with my water jug, it's gonna show, you know, if that's gonna come off, but it really has hung on quite well. So it is matte. It's not gonna feel like super hydrating. Neither is the Revlon. Like, we're talking about matte lipsticks here, people. These are not lip balms, but the color is very full on. You're gonna put one of these on, these CoverGirls, and think perhaps that it's greasy, uneven. You're just going to wonder how it's possibly going to work, and then it starts to set and you start to understand. And it's like, however you manage to slop that on there at the start, it will work out. Like, it will dry down and it will be nice and even, and it will wear really well all day. If you're trying really hard, you can pull some off, but this is probably even better hardcore staying power than the Revlon. Granted, some of those bold Revlon shades are going to hang around, like they're going to practically stain your lips, but this CoverGirl line throughout the whole range, I think it's got an even better cling to the lips. Kind of a dry feel, yes, but not terrible. Again, I would say exfoliate your lips first for the best experience and look. But a couple of the shades that I like best, this one called Provocateur, it's a really nice pinky berry shade. I think it's absolutely beautiful and kind of a fun springtime shade too. There's a nice bit of life and brightness there. And then Gemini is the one that I've been wearing throughout this video, and this is just like kind of classic rose, more warmth in this shade. I just thought it looked kind of nice with the eye look today. Kind of like your everyday glam. It's not too over the top in the color department, I wouldn't say, but I just really liked the evenness of wear with both of those. I would say as far as the whole spread of colors, there's not as much that I like in this CoverGirl line as I do from the Revlon. There are even some others beyond like my top 3 here that I still enjoyed from that. But from the CoverGirl range, it's pretty much kind of these two are my top faves, but they are really nice. And just a really interesting, unusual formula that you are gonna judge right when you put it on and think, no, this isn't gonna work. And then lo and behold, it turns out to work. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. Folks, let's get to the bottom 5 here, and I guess I'll go in order of application for these products as well. The first one would be this product from Dalton, and it's called the Doll Skin TCE Concealer. The TCE stands for This Covers Everything, and I think, guys, considering this is in my bottom 5, we know the way this ends. It did not cover everything. This brand, I feel kind of bad because this is a great brand. They're available on QVC. I've done videos on them in the past. They have done some really outstanding products here and there, and some unique products, some innovative things. This one just kind of missed the mark for me. They've got another concealer that's called Hydrolux that actually covers quite a bit better for me than this stuff. And they put out a card with their PR mailer. It said, please read before using. And it says, know that a little goes a long way. Using the medical grade steel tip applicator, gently squeeze a small amount onto the under eye area. And it says this formula is activated by water, so we highly recommend that you use the damp sponge. I don't get at all why this formula is activated by water. It is a very thin, blendable, like just lightweight, kind of very mobile, easy to work with formula. Like, I have no idea why they're saying this sponge is so important. If anything, I actually feel like for this thin, lightweight formula, the sponge sort of takes away some coverage. I mean, I've used it both with and without. I would say I ultimately get better coverage out of the concealer without using the sponge, but I put it on in this light shade, which is, I guess, my shade from this line. It's pretty yellowy, and you put it on and it feels nice coming out of the tip. I will say that. Like, that's a cool little accent there. It doesn't do the greatest job of really spreading it around. You're gonna have to ultimately do that with your finger, a sponge, a brush, whatever. But for that moment where it's coming out, I'm like, okay, that tip feels nice. But it really is just a thin, lightweight concealer. I'm not saying it's world's worst concealer, but it does not cover everything. I mean, it's not the type of thing that I feel like you can come out and say, hey, let this tackle your worst problems. It does not cover the redness around my nose. It does not cover the darkness around my eyes. I mean, if I were dealing with melasma, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't cover that either. And really pushing the sponge alongside this very lightweight, very kind of thin texture concealer is a little bit baffling to me. Like saying, hey, read this, make sure you're using the sponge. Like, why? As I turn my head, I can still see my dark circles here. And I got an extra hour of sleep last night. Again, not world's worst concealer, and maybe not everybody needs the greatest coverage ever, but the product is literally named This Covers Everything, and it didn't cover everything. Okay. Natasha Denona has come out with another face palette, and doggone it, it's about the prettiest thing you've ever seen. But I don't really like what's on the inside. This is called the Love Glow Cheek Palette, and I am, me of all people, you know, I love these glowy blushes. Beauty Bakery's Cotton Candy Champagne palette is like me in a palette. You know, I love that stuff. But in here, they've given us 4 shimmers that are just like, it's a bit much. It's a little over the top. They call these up here Glow Cream Base, and they've put them under this window, but they really don't feel like creamy to me. They actually seem a little bit flaky. In some of her other face palettes, there have literally been real true creams under this little window, and here I don't quite get why these two, they look so similar. I mean, one maybe has a little more orangey tone than the other, but it is so close. By the time these sheer out on a blush level, you know, on your skin, it's just, they look so similar. And then this diamond powder, when I first got this was completely shattered, so I mushed it back in. I did end up losing some of the product, but I smushed it in. And anytime there's something called diamond powder in her compacts, I'm just like, I'm sorry, I really don't like it. I think it's too flaky, too all over the place. Natasha Denona makes a gorgeous, gorgeous highlighter called Super Glow, but it just doesn't find its way into these palettes, and instead we get this. And then there's this Glow Impact powder, which you may not feel like you're really picking up much on your brush, but you are, and you will get some glow from that. I'm wearing that on top of my look today. It's definitely not chunky and flaky. It's a completely different texture from everything else, but it's kind of like, did we really even need anything more after all this glowy stuff? Like, it's just a lot. There's a lot going on in there. Friends, the next new release in my bottom 5 is from Too Faced, and it is called the Born This Way Natural Nudes Complexion Inspired Eyeshadow Palette. And at a glance, it is not a bad looking palette. I mean, I look at it and I think, okay, there would be a lot of potentially pretty looks in here. But what's bothering me is basically, in a nutshell, it's the texture of the shimmers here. I think the mattes are pretty smooth and nice, and I've always liked Too Faced mattes. I also feel like the mattes that were chosen to put in here are really user-friendly, some really nice tones for the crease, and as I look like sideways across the palette, I see, okay, we've got kind of like this nude look with just a hint of beige. We've got our kind of rosy thing going on here, a bit of warmth, more of a brownish look. There's kind of this gradient happening, and it's pretty easy to understand. But what I don't like is the texture of some of these shimmers, where I feel like, again, trying to reinvent the wheel on shimmers. Why do we need to do that? It's not till we get to these last two that I feel like we've got a really nice, soft, just good quality, standard, nice shimmer eyeshadow. The rest of these, you've got a few that feel almost creamy, so you're gonna have to really swipe those on, kind of take a different approach to your application with those. We've got some that are so light and dusty that they just kick up sparkle as you use them. Rose gold and sparkling rum. I mean, if you watch my last video, which was get ready with me using this. You saw those in action and it really wasn't that great. So to me, it's a palette that's got some decent things going on, but to have so many shimmers falling short, it's just kind of disappointing to me. My final things in my bottom 5, guys, are both mascaras, one high-end, one drugstore. One is this from Buxom, and it's called the Extrovert Mascara. I randomly received this in PR. Usually don't receive stuff from Buxom, but that was nice to see, but unfortunately I do not like this mascara. It did a lot of things that I don't like to my lashes, but the main one would be, I think it kind of weighed them down and straightened out the curl. And then on top of that, in an effort to lengthen, you know, you want to add maybe some extra coats, but it gave me some really sort of gnarly, funky ends. It might be a mascara that some people with really full, thick, naturally long lashes would like, but for me, I could just never totally get where I needed to be with this stuff, and I just didn't like the finished look at all. And you know, you take the time to curl your lashes, you need something that's going to support that curl. It Cosmetics Superhero is always pretty good about that, but this one just did not hit the mark. And then there's this new Bambi Eye mascara from L'Oreal. Have you guys been seeing this in the commercials online? It's a rubber brush mascara, kind of tapered toward the tip, a really manageable looking size of brush and nice short bristles. For me, I feel like maybe I'm pulling off some length with this mascara, but I'm not looking like I've got a lot of lashes. Over here on this eye, I look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can count like 5 lashes that I'm working with. I guess you start bringing Disney characters into the mix, you start referencing Bambi. I'm expecting this to be really, really great, ba-ba-boom, but it just didn't go there for me. It's more of a natural looking mascara. I don't think it's the worst mascara ever, but it's certainly not the kind of thing I'm gonna get on here recommending. So as far as new releases go, it kind of drops down to my bottom 5. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you like this style of video for top 5, bottom 5, or if there's any certain brands you'd like to see featured in this way. I'm all ears. Let me know your requests. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.